The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
And what's up, guys, and welcome to yet another, the second edition of Wrestling Unwrapped Reacts. Tonight we will be reacting to the, I believe, 7th Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, SmackDown's final stop on the road to Wrestlemania. As always, I'm your host, Patrick Katza, and joining me, once again, as always, Mr. Harry Broadhurst.
I can 100% tell you you are wrong in calling this the 7th Elimination Chamber because I remember the pay-per-view going all the way back to like 2009 at the early, at least. This is either the 8th or the 9th Elimination Chamber pay-per-view.
There wasn't one last year, dingus. 2010,
Yes,
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. Last year wasn't a pay-per-view.
Oh, last year was a house show, you're right.
Actually, no. That was the one you're thinking of. The house show was the one in Corpus Christi. That was 2015.
Oh, Well, I'm off to a first.
Told you.
Why don't you introduce us, and then I can do our plugs, and we can get this show on the road.
I already did.
Anyway, as you mentioned, he's Patrick, I'm Harry, and this episode of Wrestling Unwrapped Reacts is brought to you by W2Mnet.com. You can find us online at www.w2mnet.com. It is the official online home for everything associated with the Wrestling to the Max podcast. Apparently, and I did not know this, the newest Wrestling Unwrapped written edition just recently went up, as it is the written version of our coverage of the Glory by Honor 2012 and Unbreakable Hope. Hopefully sometime within the next week or so we'll have the Shine review up for you guys, and then Patrick and I will have to get together and work on Survivor Series 2016 for everybody here. In addition, Wrestling Unwrapped Reacts is brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest, stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you're a fan of anything wrestling related, DVDs, action figures, magazines, posters, VHS tapes, pretty much anything you can think of, you can find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention you heard this advertisement on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase. Let's do this, Ketza.
Indeed. So it is SmackDown's final stop on the road to WrestleMania. We already know that Randy Orton will be in the main event of the show of shows. The question is, who's he going to face? We're about to find out, as for the first time, we'll react to the 2017 edition of Elimination Chamber. And as we always do, let's start off with the results. In the opening contest, Becky Lynch defeats Mickie James in 11 minutes and 40 seconds in Mickey's singles return to the main roster. Oh, for Christ's sake, it's not even her singles return. Who are you kidding?
Sir.
What?
There was a pre-show match.
And?
It wasn't a good pre-show match, but there was one.
Fine. In the pre-show, Mojo Rawley defeats Kurt Hawkins in 8 minutes and 5 seconds.
It was about 6 minutes longer than it really needed to be.
Mojo Rawley played football, in case you didn't know. That about sums up the match.
Fair.
Anyway, Becky Lynch defeats Mickie James, and then Kalisto and Apollo Crews defeat Dolph Ziggler in a handicap match at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. American Alpha retain the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship in a Tag Team Turmoil match in 21 minutes and 10 seconds. We'll get into the rest of the teams and everyone involved when we get to that match. Nikki Bella and Natalya end in a double countout at 13 minutes, 40 seconds, obviously when they cannot get back into the ring. Randy Orton defeats... What?
Just going to say, Nikki was about to break the count. Natalya stopped her. Nikki got about halfway into the ring. I think that was kind of a case of referee's discretion. We'll talk more about the match when we get there, but the finish seemed a little shady to me.
Yeah. Randy Orton defeats Luke Harper out of nowhere at 17 minutes and 15 seconds. Naomi defeats Alexa Bliss to win the SmackDown Women's Championship at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. And Bray Wyatt wins the WWE World Championship at 34 minutes and 20 seconds, winning the 20th Elimination Chamber match.
All right, so quick hitter before we get started with the actual review here. I don't know about you, but I find myself looking more to the SmackDown brand exclusives than I do the Raw ones. Did SmackDown continue their trend, or is this a disappointment? It's time to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, Wrestling Unwrapped reacts to the Elimination Chamber 2017. All right, so you mentioned the pre-show match a little bit, and we're not going to do a whole lot on this match because, frankly, there was nothing to it. It was mostly rest holds and Kurt Hawkins running like a biatch. But Mojo does pick up the win here. Apparently, the talk is that since Ryder's on the shelf with an injury, they do want to give Mojo something of a push. And apparently, they're going to use Rob Gronkowski with which to do it. Because if you didn't know, I'm making a prediction right now. You heard it here first. Mojo wins the Andre Battle Royal. Gronkowski comes down to the ring to celebrate with him afterwards.
Gronkowski was like the kid in school that celebrated getting the A despite not doing a damn thing.
He was that guy on the science fair project that just kind of sat in the corner and looked pretty?
Yeah, just like Dexter Fowler when the Cubs won the World Series.
You're just saying that because he signed with the Cardinals.
I'm sorry, not Dexter Fowler. Wow. Jesus. I meant to say Jason Hayward.
Hey, as an Atlanta Braves fan, I'm happy Hayward got a ring. All right, we're getting away from us. Let's get back to the show.
I know. Anyway. So that's enough of that. Mojo wins. Moving on.
Pretty much. Here's an interesting trivia bit for you. First pay-per-view ever with 3 women's matches on it.
Indeed. And originally before Hawkins and Mojo was actually named to the pre-show, I had a hunch the handicap match was going to end up on the pre-show, and I was wondering, had there ever been a time where legitimately half of the card was women's matches? Obviously, the handicap match was the main show, and that point becomes moot, but obviously the answer is no.
I still question why that handicap match needed to be a thing at all, but we'll talk about that when we get to that match. Really good effort by Becky.
TLC isn't for 10 more months. Anyway, moving into the opener.
Really good effort by Becky and Mickie, I thought. I was really entertained by it there. Mickie has not lost anything in the ring in her time away from the WWE, and if anything, it appears that she may be even more fluid now than she was back when she was originally with the company. Agree or disagree?
Absolutely agree. And you mentioning her being away from the WWE brings up my first commentary bitching point of the night.
I was watching with a large group of friends, so you will not hear me comment on commentary. I did not get a chance to hear much, if anything at all, of what Morrow, David, JBL, and Tom Phillips were saying.
I'll say this, JBL, quite good. Morrow, quite nervous, but once he picked up, pretty good. He was fairly nervous and kept stumbling over himself in the beginning. Otunga kept just saying that Mickey's been away for 7 years.
Well, it's not like they can take care of
it. I get that, but it wasn't she's been away from the WWE. It's just she's been away for 7 years. It's finally real quick, finally about 3/4 of the way through the match, JBL finally goes, you say she's been away for 7 years, but it's not like she's been out of the ring for 7 years. She's been wrestling around the world for 7 years and just hasn't been here.
Yeah, okay. I think the problem comes is they kind of screw themselves with when they only casually mention companies when it's convenient for them. They put over AJ Styles' history in TNA. They put over somewhat Samoa Joe's history in TNA. But when it comes to somebody like Mickie James, who met her husband in TNA as well, in addition to being able to keep active in the company there for a couple of years while she was with the company down in Orlando, it seems like that they kind of try to whitewash certain people's history with that company.
Yeah, now I'm trying to think of, when they say that she's a 6-time champion, which I believe they did mention, was she a 6-time champion in WWE?
Yes. She beat Trish's record. Her last women's title win came against Michelle McCool at the Royal Rumble.
The whole Mickie James stuff.
Yeah, what they did was they want to act like the Divas Championship never existed, so they combined the Divas title win with their women's championship wins. That's where the 6th one comes from.
Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Hi, Sean.
I noticed that one. She kept saying 5, and then one week they decided to make it 6. I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing.
Yeah. So, fair enough on that. But in terms of this match, yeah, this was a very good match, and they definitely had the crowd into it. The crowd was behind Becky. The one minutia of a gripe that I have is Mickie doesn't really act like a heel.
To be fair, those crowds don't treat her like a heel either.
That's probably also the problem with having somebody return after 7 years and have them automatically be a heel. The problem there is she's getting those return cheers still.
Yeah, I think Mickey's reached the point now of her career where she's kind of gotten herself to that level of, say, a Trish or of, say, a Lita or of, say, somebody of that caliber from that era with which we grew up on. I know myself, certainly, Trish, Lita, and Molly, Jazz, Ivory, that was my heyday. I was 16, 17, 18 years old as those women were entering their prime. Mickey's of that generation of workers for the women's division, where indeed she raises a valid point that there would be no Divas Revolution if women like Mickey, Trish, Lita, Ivory, Jazz, Molly hadn't paved the way. Victoria hadn't paved the way for women like Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley to have the successes that they're having now.
Yeah, and it definitely showed here as Becky may have actually had one of the better matches she's had since the brand split. I would dare say that point. And she's not a bad wrestler by any means. And she had pretty good matches with Alexa, but I actually think this one, I thought they flowed very well, and to me may have been one of the better Becky Lynch matches since she's been SmackDown only.
Yeah, you're not going to get an argument here from me. All right, let's move on. Next match.
Do we have to talk about the next match? A 2-on-1 handicap match. It's Kalisto and Apollo Crews versus Dolph Ziggler.
Okay, we don't have to talk about the match itself, but I do want to talk about the very, very start. So, Crews gets a full entrance. Good for him. And then the very next thing we see is Kalisto come out and Dolph decide to throw him into the Tron. I've always wondered why more people didn't do that.
I do question, how did they manage to fix it so quick?
You noticed that too. It looked like a couple of the LED bulbs were busted.
It did, but then as I saw Kalisto starting to come back, because of course, 3/4 of the way through the actual match, Kalisto makes his way back down there, and I noticed it was all fixed.
Well, that's what you do when you have a crack production team, as opposed to an on-crack production team such as TNA.
You said it, not me.
As far as the match itself goes, nothing match. Question. Do you think we saw the impetus for the Apollo Crews heel run?
I mean, the only thing about Apollo Crews and heel right now is the fact that he's probably going to have to fix his heel after Ziggler Pillmanizes him twice.
Okay, A, that was a joke I'd expect myself to make, not you. B, here's my thought process on this. So you mentioned, we talked about Crews pinned Ziggler, team babyface wins, yay, go team babyface. Post-match, Dolph continues to beat ass because that's what Dolph has done for the better part of the last month on SmackDown. And as you mentioned, Pillmanizes Crews' ankle. And the crowd in Phoenix, being the respectful fans that they are, chant, "Thank you, Ziggler." Apollo Crews is a complete failure as a babyface. They've got to do something to freshen his act.
The one problem that I see is throughout his, and I mean this, entire career, I have never once seen Apollo Crews / Uhaa Nation ever be heel.
I agree with that, but at the same time, there's plenty of history that says that people that have been career-long babyfaces, when they turn heel, have had excellent runs. I referred to you again, as we mentioned during our first match, Stratus, Trish.
But Trish was heel for a large part of it, and then turned face until WrestleMania 20.
Okay, but at the same time, though, Trish was at nothing when she was with Test and Albert. She really wasn't much of anything as far as the character goes. Yeah, she had the flirtation with Bubba Ray, but other than that, how much did Trish really do as a character during her run with TNA? She got over for her original run in the WWE as a babyface when she turned on Vince at WrestleMania X7.
Well, that is true, and then she'd have a pretty good face run, and then would have an even better heel run starting at WrestleMania 20.
Absolutely. I still think to this day, and we talked about it when we did our WrestleMania 20 review, that Christian and Jericho is one of those matches at WrestleMania that does not get the love that it deserves.
No, not at all.
See, that right there should tell you as much as you need to know about this match tonight on pay-per-view. Apollo Crews and Kalisto and Dolph Ziggler are all involved in the match on pay-per-view, and we're discussing Christian and Chris Jericho from WrestleMania 20. Read into it what you will, folks.
Fair enough. And on that note, we move to our next match, which is going to be a little bit of a cluster to talk about here. It is a tag team turmoil match. 6 teams. It's a gauntlet match, let's be honest. So it's 6 teams in all. 2 teams start, obviously 2-on-2. When one gets eliminated and another one comes out, last team standing is the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. All right. So, go in this order. I'll mention the eliminations. So it starts off with Beauty and the Man Beast versus Team Febreze. Breezango is the first team eliminated. Next team out is the Vaudevillains. They're also eliminated by Heath Slater and Rhino. Then the Usos come out and beat Beauty and the Man Beast. Then American Alpha is the 5th team out, which, by the way, fair play to the commentators, never once mentioned who the 6th team was until the very, very end, about 2 minutes before they came out, which is kind of a surprise. American Alpha defeats the Usos. The Usos then decide to beat the holy hell out of American Alpha, seeming like a prime pick for the 6th and final team, the Ascension. Except, nope. Little bit of a Super Cena booking. American Alpha actually pick up the victory via Grand Amplitude and retain the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And
all right,
we'll get to the match, but I have a point that I want to make after this match.
All right, I understand why you're bitching about the whole Grand Amplitude finish with Alpha going over the Ascension there, and I mean to an extent it bothers me as well, but it doesn't bother me nearly as much as you would think it would, and the reason for that is ever since the American Alpha made their debut on SmackDown, they've been pretty much paired up against the Usos, and they've never had a full tag team match blow-off where they've been in a 2-on-2 environment. Because if you recall, the tag team tournament saw the Usos get pinned real quick by American Alpha and then just beat the dog crap out of Alpha after the match, including taking out Chad Gable's knee. Well, this right here, with them once again snapping and taking out both members of American Alpha, or at least attempting to, I think sets us up for a pre-show SmackDown Tag Team title match between the Usos and Alpha, where they can have a legit 2-on-2 blow-off to the storyline that's been building ever since they crowned the first SmackDown Tag Team champions in the build-up towards the Backlash pay-per-view back in September.
To be fair, I wasn't actually bitching about it. I just said that it kind of was a little bit of a Super Cena-style booking. That's all I said. Because this is only one time. It's not like they're constantly doing it like, the reason that it's called Super Cena booking. This is just one time. I likened it the same way when Nia Jackson faced Bayley out in London at that takeover. That was similar, but that was only one match. It's just a nice comparable point to it. In terms of this match, I didn't think it was a bad match. I thought they actually kept the crowd into it. I do question why the hell were the Vaudevillains even in there, but then I realized, well, the entire point of Tag Team Turmoil is 6 teams. And you needed a 16, because they lasted far and away the shortest time in the match.
The reason the Vaudevillains were in there is because there's no other tag team on SmackDown right now.
Hence, you need 16.
It's what it is there.
Yeah, I know. Well, I like I said, I didn't think it was a bad match. I also found it weird because I thought a lot of people were saying, oh, we're going to see the split of Heath Slater and Rhino and everything. I never really got an inkling of that.
I think we see Heath Slater and Rhino split going into the first SmackDown pay-per-view after WrestleMania. Some miscommunication during the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal leads to the elimination of one and or both, and then we break down on the SmackDowns leading up to the B-Show pay-per-view after that. The individual brands, you're not necessarily calling it a B-Show. Payback, Extreme Rules, whatever the hell you want to call the first one after Mania for the Blue Brand.
I think it's Payback.
I honestly don't know. I have not had a chance to look.
That's why I said think. My one thought, and I'll leave the match with this. I know you didn't get a chance to watch it because you pretty much got home and we got ready to go with this. I had a chance to watch Talking Smack, and Gable and Jordan were guests and said they still wanted to face whoever they could. They pretty much beat the entire tag team roster tonight in some form or another by winning the match. Do you think, with the fact that we're 7 weeks away, does this set up the Revival coming up?
No. If the Revival comes up, it happens after TakeOver Orlando because based on what's happened on NXT television this past Wednesday, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch this week's episode of NXT or not, and if you haven't, then spoiler alert, the Revival gets into it with the Authors of Pain. They call out the Authors of Pain. Authors of Pain come down to the ring. Revival bails. Authors of Pain do some crowd work or whatever, and then the Revival comes back in and jumps them from behind. It seems to be setting up a three-way for the tag team titles at TakeOver Orlando. Revival, Authors of Pain, and DIY.
I'd be okay with that.
After that match at TakeOver Orlando, then it's top guys out of NXT and to one of the main brands. Possibly the night after Mania on Raw or the Tuesday after Mania on the first live SmackDown post-WrestleMania.
I do wonder about what you just mentioned with the fact that they're now going to do SmackDown Live after Mania. Are they going to try and make that a thing now, just like they made the Raw after Mania a thing? And
well, let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Raw after Mania has become such a thing that it's getting its own DVD set later this year.
This is true. So, and that'll be mighty interesting because I didn't realize the first insane Hulk Hogan reaction from the crowd was the night after WrestleMania 18.
Well, I mean, technically you had kind of the half-and-half crowd at WrestleMania 18, but there was like a 5 or 6 minute ovation for him the night after WrestleMania 18 on Raw as well. So,
yeah. So we move on to our next contest, and here's another we probably don't have to go too much into: Nikki Bella and Natalya, double countout. To me, this screams submission match with the way Nikki Bella was wrestling tonight. Not a bad match, but I found it fairly boring until like the last 2 minutes or so when they really started getting into it, and then the double countout happens, which I agree with you, seemed a little fluky to me, or seemed a little flimsy to me, because of the fact that most referees would count what Nikki was able to do to try and break the count. Most referees would count that.
that's what I'm saying. I've never had a... there's always been a couple cases of shady officiating during the course of these shows here, and one of the things that really bothered me, too, is in Alexa and Naomi, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on once we get to that contest there. But, yeah, this was one of those things that more often than not, when a wrestler slides at least halfway into the ring, especially when it's their head, most of their chest and their arms that break the plane of the ring, traditionally that breaks the count. I mean, don't get me wrong. As you mentioned there, it seemed kind of like I never got the feeling that these two disliked each other or they were having some kind of bitter rival, which is what they wanted you to believe that it was. The video package was better than the match itself.
Totally. Absolutely.
And I would be willing to bet that Tupac has more charisma in the ring than both of these women combined as well.
Wait, who?
Tupac, Natalya's cat.
Oh, Jesus. Boo.
Don't care, funny to me.
Anyway. So, I mean, yeah, this screams a submission match. And by the way, and this got mentioned a lot when we were on the comment thread for W2M and their Facebook page. How the hell did Nikki Bella do a better STF than John Cena?
Well, technically, Nikki's version of the STF is illegal. And I pointed this out while we were watching it. Nikki's is a choke. It's illegal.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
She applies the STF across the throat, which technically should be a break because it's a choke. But, no, that was something that we were talking about amongst my group of friends as we were watching as well, that Nikki's STF definitely looks more vicious than Cena's does.
Yeah, I noticed that one too, and I was wondering, I was like, the refs gotta break this at some point, but nope. I'm like, even while Natalya is fading like it's a joke, nope.
That reminds me of Facebook.com/groups/wrestling to the max if you're interested in joining.
Very good. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Sean's going to have to confirm that one for me, but I'm pretty sure that's the direct link. No, I'm good. I got nothing else about this match. As I said when I did my original comment there, the video package for the match was better than the match itself. You never got the feeling that these two disliked each other, and they really didn't turn it up a notch until we got into that closing stretch, as you mentioned. It did not come anywhere near the level that Becky and Mickey set the bar at earlier in the show.
Yeah. So, moving on.
Allow me to start here because I just said that Becky and Mickey set the bar for this show at the beginning there.
Yep.
Well, to steal a line from our friend John Bradshaw Layfield, somebody call Phoenix Police Department because Orton and Harper just stole the damn thing.
Yeah. To me, this was one of the matches that needed to deliver. Outside of the chamber, this match needed to deliver because, like we said, this is SmackDown's final pay-per-view, even though we're 7 weeks removed from WrestleMania, but this is their final stop. And now it's just TV shows where he's probably not going to have as many feature matches, and it'll be more promos, especially now after the ending of the main event. So to me, Randy Orton had to deliver on this. And I think you and I, hang on. I think you and I would be in agreement that Luke Harper might be one of the most absolutely underrated guys on the entire roster right now. Would you agree on that?
No doubt in my mind. You mentioned the fact that Orton had to deliver here, and Orton did, but at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Luke Harper coming out party.
Well, yeah, that's where I was heading, is the fact that to me this match needed to deliver, and it more than delivered. And yeah, Randy Orton and Luke Harper stole the damn show.
We have been singing the praises of Luke Harper, Brody Lee, whatever you want to call him, on Wrestling Unwrapped since we started that show. I think even the most casual of WWE fans tonight caught just a small glimpse of what Harper is capable of. And if this is the sign of things to come for Luke Harper, 2017 is going to be a very fun year for the Blue brand.
Yeah.
Did I tell you my prediction, Patrick?
No.
It's a triple threat at Mania. Wyatt, Orton, Harper.
Here's the thing. When I did my other show on Wednesday night, I put down, I said that, but I said that only if I said I think Luke Harper picks up the win and we end up with a triple threat. I don't think we're going to have a triple threat. However, I do think whoever comes out of that match with the title, I think Luke Harper is going to have a title match. He will be in the main event of at least one, hopefully and probably more than one, but at least one pay-per-view, one SmackDown pay-per-view this year. And maybe we get that triple threat at Payback. I think Payback is the SmackDown one. Maybe we get it there. I don't think we get the triple threat at Mania. I would be absolutely thrilled and would be more than okay if we did, though. Especially if we get another match of tonight's quality.
100%. Like I said earlier, this was Luke Harper's coming out party, and as you said, with Orton probably not wrestling a ton between now and WrestleMania in order to protect him from any kind of serious injury, in a run that has been just placated with him throughout the last year or so in the WWE, and people in big spots getting hurt. This right here, this needed to be a very strong performance from Orton, and it absolutely was.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it is onward and upward for Luke Harper. You know, hopefully finally now, what are we, 3 years now into his WWE career? Main roster career? Almost 4?
3.5, summer of 2014.
No, it had to be 2013.
Summer of 2013, Bray Wyatt had the Ring of Hell match against Kane, so summer of 2013.
Yeah. So 3.5 years in, hopefully, finally, we finally get to see Luke Harper do some work on his own.
Well, I think Harper had that run with Ziggler on SmackDown back in 2011 that was worthwhile, but other than that, we really haven't seen a whole lot from We really haven't seen a whole lot from Harper as far as what he's able to do as a singles wrestler. His tag matches with Eric Rowan were surprisingly good, given Rowan's limitations.
I know. I think in this case, I'm more used to seeing him as a singles wrestler, knowing him as Brody Lee.
Sir, if you're interested in knowing, the very first SmackDown pay-per-view after WrestleMania is rumored to be Extreme Rules, May 21st, Chicago, Illinois.
We always get a May show. Anyway, shall we move on?
We shall.
Alrighty. It is the second to last match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. A extremely tired and dehydrated, I'll explain in a second, SmackDown Women's Champion, Alexa Bliss, defends the belt against the leader of the Glow Bomb, Naomi. The match wasn't bad until the last minute.
It wasn't especially good either.
The problem was, good God, that ending.
Oh, look. I get the whole happy, feel-good, yay moment for Naomi. I do. I don't want to be that guy, but let's be honest here.
You're going to be that guy.
Oh, 100%. Naomi has been injury-prone over the better part of the last couple of years. Naomi has been sloppy over the better part of the last couple of years. Look at that split-legged moonsault finish where she knees Alexa square in the damn shoulder. Naomi has been incredibly inconsistent as far as her ring work goes over the course of the last couple of years. Look, I don't have anything against her. Hell, she had to carry Cameron for 2 years. That couldn't have been easy. But at the same time, when I think women's champion on SmackDown with the level of talent that are on that show, specifically Alexa, Natalya, Becky, Nikki, seeing Naomi as the SmackDown Women's Champion seems kind of insulting to my intelligence at this point.
I'll put it this way. Do I think she has worked hard enough to at least earn at least a small run with the belt? Yes, I do think she's earned it. She has worked her ass off as hard as she could for her entire career. The issue I run into is I see her as champion. I don't see her as going into WrestleMania as champion. Now, I get the whole thing. It was to, essentially in my eyes, continue the streak of you're going to lose in your hometown. Because guess where WrestleMania is?
Because they've been beating us over the head with it, Naomi's hometown of Orlando.
Yes. By the way, who lost the Raw Women's Champion in Boston? Oh, the Boston native. Who lost it in Charlotte, North Carolina? Oh, Charlotte. The only person I've ever known to actually win in their damn hometown was CM Punk in 2011.
We can't say his name.
Oh, shut up. I'm very happy for Naomi. I'm absolutely happy for Naomi. Wrong time. Give it to her in May or June. Hell, give it to her for SummerSlam. But just because it's her hometown, she gets it going into the biggest show of the year. And like we said, the match wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad until that last minute, which, by the way, didn't you have something you wanted to mention in terms of refereeing? And I know what you're going to mention.
I'm going to specifically mention that Oklahoma roll by Alexa towards the tail end of the match. And where she puts her feet on the rope, and referee John Cho decides to look directly at her feet before counting 1, 2, and then calling for the rope break. You freaking moron.
Or how about if the foot is outside the rope call?
Technically her foot wasn't, but her hand was.
That, to me, that one seemed a little bit like the roadblock call last year with Ambrose and Triple H, where you never really got a good angle to actually show that it was. You just kind of had to go with it. So, I mean, congrats to Naomi. I just think it's the wrong time. Main event time?
Main event time. And then actually I see something here on 401 Mania I want to raise as a possible talking point to you as soon as we get to the finish for this match. So let's go ahead and get into this here. All right, so let's go over the eliminations real quick here. And I won't get time but I do remember them, so I'm going to go over them here. Miz decides to be a chicken bleep and stay in his cell once the timing enters. And what's up with no eliminations before the final cell opens? But anyways, Miz is...
that's not true. That's not true.
Yes, it 100% is, because Miz was the last person into the match.
I could have sworn that happened... I could have sworn that elimination happened, like, 45 seconds before it opened?
Nope, because Corbin was waiting on Miz to get into the ring when Ambrose rolled him up from behind for the first fall of the match. I am 1,000...
Okay, no, you're right.
Okay, so, anyways, back to what I was saying. Where was I? Oh, yes. So, yeah, Ambrose rolls up Baron Corbin to eliminate him. Corbin decides to beat the absolute dog crap out of Ambrose in retribution. Miz picks the bones, pins Ambrose to eliminate him.
I called that WrestleMania match.
Cena pins Miz after a single attitude adjustment because screw you, Miz. Apparently, we know where you are on the WWE totem pole. Woohoo! A single attitude adjustment off of a roll through to a top rope crossbody because, you know, Miz is constantly hitting top rope crossbody blocks. You know, happens every match. Anyways, sends Miz packing. Bray Wyatt pins John Cena and AJ Styles clean as a whistle with Sister Abigail to win the SmackDown Heavyweight Championship.
I'm sure, and I said it myself, and I've had a lot of people say it. It's about effing time.
We'll get specifically to the way we come out of this match for everybody that went into this match. Let's do it in order of elimination, shall we? And then we can talk about some of the stuff that happened during the course of the match as well. First of all, AJ Styles is a GD moron.
How so?
I knew for a fact going into this match that it was going to be Styles and Ambrose taking the dumb bumps. Well, I was not disappointed.
I think there was one dumb bump taken by someone that wasn't them. Unfortunately, you never saw it.
Well, you saw it on the replay. I know the bump you're talking about.
That's not the point.
No, I know the bump you're talking about, where Styles and Cena are fighting on top of the cage. Styles hits Cena with an elbow. Cena drops and lands on the ring mat that surrounds the outside of the Elimination Chamber.
Real quick, I got to cut you off. It bears mentioning. It does bear mentioning. This was a brand new, and to be fair, looks totally different Elimination Chamber. Much more square. Actually, it is a square. As opposed to the circular chamber of now old. The first 19 were done with this chamber. This being the 20th match, used a new one, much taller. I believe the old one was 20 feet high. I think they said this one was 24 feet high, to the point that I think it was Ambrose and maybe Styles both climbed on top of the pods and actually had more than enough room to stand up, which was always an issue with pod spots on the old chamber. Much lighter. Looks like it still hurts like hell, to be fair. And a lot more plexiglass, including the very top of it, which has the WWE logo made in plexiglass. And a lot more lights.
Is it just me, or did that cage remind you of Terror Dome with a roof, the old TNA Asylum Dome thingy?
The red one?
Yes.
No. If anything, the old chamber reminded me more of that one.
I got a very Terror Dome vibe from this thing, and it was kind of distracting to me.
I didn't think it was that. But before we get into the match itself, what did you think of the new chamber? I liked it. I also liked that there were two doorways for each pop. Small thing, but I actually I didn't mind the new chamber at all. I thought it still looked great. Yes, the floor was definitely padded. You could tell that. But I had no issues with it. Nothing?
General indifference towards the chamber itself. I thought the outside of the ring was weird given the grading that we're used to, but I suppose in the long run for the match itself, as well as for the wrestlers' health for those involved in said match, probably for the best that we stick to the much safer version of the chamber itself.
Alrighty. Alright, so now going back to the match itself. So, AJ Styles is a GD moron.
Just some of the dumb bumps he took. Like that drop suplex on that floor there. That looked brutal.
But the floor was padded. You just said that. So then it shouldn't have been such a bad bump.
I said it looked like a ring pad. I didn't say how padded it was. Honestly, it was probably similar to the framing of the ring, I would imagine. Like the wood they use for the ring and stuff, if I had to venture a guess. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seemed that way to me.
There's one thing that bugs me about this match. Corbin going out first. I figured, much like the Orton match was kind of the coming out party for Harper, I thought this was going to be a real chance for Baron Corbin to shine a little bit. And I even went so far as to say I thought maybe he would be the one to eliminate Cena. But nope. Instead, he's the first one gone. And I don't know about you, but it kind of screams to me, and actually I think I predicted this match 2 weeks ago. Seems like we're going to go with Corbin versus Ambrose at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, that seems almost guaranteed at this point now.
So, Miz never should have been in the match. Let the real wrestlers wrestle.
Get off of me. Really? Again? God. You almost had me say a very bad word on the show here.
Go ahead. A lot of wrestlers said a lot of bad words during the show tonight.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what this match means for everybody coming out of it. So you already mentioned Corbin, and I was going to kind of get into that there. And I guess you could kind of say the same thing for Ambrose as well. If you have the book for WrestleMania here, What kind of match are those two having? Because it's not going to be a straight-up one-on-one match. I think that does neither of them any favors.
Ambrose and Corbin?
Yes.
Honestly, I would. I would go one-on-one. I would go one-on-one with the purpose of continuing it. Do some kind of a match at Extreme Rules. But let WrestleMania be one-on-one. Hell, let Corbin win dirty.
Oh, I think Corbin
Continue
walks out
it after. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Corbin definitely walks out of WrestleMania being a front-up champion.
Yeah, that one seems obvious to me. So yeah, for WrestleMania, give him a regular match. But the idea there being it continues after. Like you said, Extreme Rules is immediately after. You could absolutely do something there. You could do I don't know that I'd want to do a ladder match, but you could find something. So there goes the first two. Miz.
I think the next two can be summed up in the same sentence as well, Miz and Cena, because clear as day, especially, we didn't actually talk about it when we were reviewing the show, but there was a backstage segment after the Natalya and Nikki match where Nikki completely telegraphed that she was about to get jumped from behind, and B, Nikki gets knocked into the makeup lady by Natalya and sends, I assume that was baby powder, all over Maurice, who just happened to casually be there.
I was going to mention that at this point.
So apparently the rumored mixed tag appears to be a go for WrestleMania between Miz and Maurice against Nikki and Cena.
Ugh.
No arguments here.
Okay, outside of my hatred of Miz, just that whole match idea, just ugh. To me, that's a waste of Cena. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's a waste of Miz, douche nozzle that he is, and while Nikki isn't great, she's a hell of a lot better than she ever was. Maurice cannot hold a candle to her. I have a hunch this match is not going to be good. Because let's face it, Miz and Cena were, in my eyes, never great in the ring against each other. Their match at WrestleMania 27, pretty damn awkward. So I'm not looking forward to that one. So that leaves those two. So now comes, in my eyes, the wild card here.
Yeah, we kind of already talked about where Bray Wyatt goes from here. I mean, if you watch the Rumble, you
No,
stop, because we're getting Bray out of the way because Bray's set in stone. We'll get to that. Just bear with me, will you?
Okay.
Jesus. We know where Bray Wyatt goes from here. If you watch the Royal Rumble, you know where Bray Wyatt goes from here. And I'm going to kind of bring up the point that I wanted to talk to you about here. Interesting fact that somebody on 411 pointed out that I saw here. Okay, so we don't like to speak this name. It's one of those names in wrestling that you don't really like to discuss nowadays because of how much he's done with the character since he made the transformation. Bray Wyatt's former personality.
Husky Harris?
That he has acknowledged before, and that Husky Harris had to die so that something better could be created. Do you remember how Husky Harris left the WWE?
Oh my God. Getting punted by Randy Orton.
Punted by Randy Orton. And And while after doing that, once that happened, once he finally regathered himself, he found himself finding the advice of a woman named Abigail, and thus Bray Wyatt was born. I saw somebody mention that on the comments on 411, and don't get me wrong, having been on the comment section on 411 before, that place can be a landmine of stupidity at times. I thought to myself, they would be foolish not to use that.
Just real quick, that's most public forums.
Okay, that's legit.
But carry on.
I just wanted to get your thoughts here. I wanted to know what you thought of the whole thing there with the comment about the Bray and Husky and Randy Orton there. Do you think it's something that you could see them using? And if not, do you think it would be a missed opportunity?
I think it doesn't fit into the current story. That's the problem that I see. Or the only way that maybe you could is you could say that one of the voices in Randy's head, or maybe that the voices in Randy's head are people from the past haunting him, and one of those was Husky Harris kind of thing. But other than that, I don't know that it would really fit in here. Because this is kind of a fairly straightforward story that's being told here between Orton and Harper and Wyatt. And it seems like a much, much longer version of what we thought we were going to get back in 2014 with Daniel Bryan. The only problem is Daniel Bryan's version of the story lasted 1 week? 2?
2, I think, maybe 3 tops.
I don't even know that it was even 3. So I don't, and I mean that would be an amazing plot point to bring in. I just don't know that it'll fit in. You know what I mean? So I don't think it would be a missed opportunity here. But real quick, second commentary bitching point of the night. Right at the end, Randy Orton comes out, and we kind of get the long stare down between Bray and Orton. Captain Obvious JBL. Oh, does this mean Orton's going to face Wyatt at WrestleMania? No, you think?
I think JBL gets paid by the stupid phrase he says. The dumber, the more money he makes.
Then how much money did he make for tripping when he was doing his Texas two-step intro tonight? This was not Trip Bradshaw. This was falling flat on his ass, Bradshaw.
Yeah. You know the indie worker Trip Bradshaw? This was Bradshaw Trips. That's the joke you're looking for there.
I still think Trip Bradshaw was a direct shot at JBL.
All right, anywho, so you mentioned that we haven't touched the elephant in the room in this match. Where does that leave AJ Styles for WrestleMania? I hope to God these Shane McMahon rumors are true.
Here's the question. Where else would you go? I wouldn't mind seeing Cena and Styles one more time, but that eventually is going to wear itself out, and Cena, from the looks of it, is going to be busy with Miz. Ugh. Where else does that leave AJ?
Unfortunately, there's really nothing else I can think of for him right now on the blue brand. There's nothing there, and that's unfortunate because, let's be honest here, Styles has been more or less carrying SmackDown since the brand split. And And
yeah, he can make a legitimate claim to being the face that runs the place.
And I voted for Miz for Wrestler of the Year for 2016, but the fact that AJ Styles won the award pretty much everywhere, I have no genuine argument with. There have been several years where I've completely disagreed with the overall winner, despite who I may or may not have picked. Yeah, you really can't knock the year that AJ Styles had. Wrestle Kingdom to start the year, starting the WWE at the Royal Rumble, and then tore that place up for the remainder of 2016.
Yeah. Like, he may, yeah, it's... Let's be honest, all right? Royal Rumble last year, unbelievable debut. I don't remember did he... Oh, was it him and Jericho at Fastlane, which wasn't bad. Then him and Jericho at WrestleMania, which again wasn't bad, but nothing really to write home about. However, starting the night after Mania, the WWE became the AJ Styles show. From that fatal four-way where he became the number one contender, and he just carried that momentum, aside from maybe a slide here or there. Did he face Ambrose in SummerSlam?
No, Ambrose faces Ziggler. Styles beat Cena clean at SummerSlam.
Oh, that's right. There's one match I thought that he had that wasn't great. But even still, aside from that, 2016 was the year of AJ Styles as far as the WWE goes. So, for him to, have an incredible match at the Rumble and lose, for him to still have a pretty damn good showing tonight and lose, if they're going to give him Shane, to me that almost seems like an FU. Not the finisher. You know what I mean.
No, it's both of them, actually. It's pretty much the equivalent of... Because at least when he was wrestling Cena, Styles had the opportunity to be in there with somebody that could hold his own. Styles wrestling Shane, as good as Shane is as a spectacle, Shane is not a good wrestler. And Styles is going to have to be a one-man bump machine to get Styles versus Shane to anything resembling passable.
I mean,
Styles deserves way better for WrestleMania.
To be fair, I didn't think Shane and Taker in the Hell in a Cell was that bad. I really, really didn't. Was it long? Yes. But there you had two guys past their prime that at least put on a decent match. I'd like to think maybe it won't be 6-star material, but I'd like to think Shane would at the very least be able to hold up his end of the bargain. If that's 30% of the match, so be it. I'd like to think that Shane would at least be able to. If he can't, that crowd's going to sandbag that match, and they're not going to be mad at AJ.
Here's what I worry about doing here. I'll be honest with you. I think Shane is one of the most over guys on the roster. That being said, you put Shane over AJ at WrestleMania, the fans will turn on that faster than you can blink.
Without a doubt. So, I mean, right now, I'd pencil in AJ and Shane, but also they're going to have to speed that up. Remember, we're 7 weeks out, and they haven't done anything. At least tonight, they started, maybe not the whole thing, but they started at least the seeds of Cena and Nikki versus Miz and Maurice. I have a hunch maybe Maurice costs Nikki a submission match or another match with Natalya, and everyone goes on their merry way there. But in this case, Shane and AJ haven't done a damn thing yet. That's what has me worried a little bit. Because by this point last year, I believe Shane had already returned. And we were on our way towards Taker and Shane at Mania already. So, it seems like, now that we're closing out the pay-per-view, it seems like we know where they're going. Now it's getting there and what's going to happen at the very last pit stop before WrestleMania, that being Fastlane in, 3 weeks?
I'm going to say it now because I said it on the reaction on Monday, and I absolutely mean this. So help me God, if that rumored plan for the main event of Fastlane goes through, I am boycotting Lesnar and Goldberg at WrestleMania out of sheer protest. I will use that match to go get a drink, to use the restroom, and to get something to eat.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about Goldberg's eventual title win 3 weeks from tonight, why don't we get into the big finish of tonight's pay-per-view first? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that our friends at Wrestling to the Max want to get on air here, and we're just over an hour into our show, so let's hit it.
Yeah, so. Alrighty, as always, big finish time, best and worst match. I don't think it's going to be that hard. Why don't we start off? What's your worst match of this pay-per-view?
The handicap match. Don't get me wrong. Nikki and Natalya wasn't good, but at least it wasn't actively insulting either. Let's put a heel at a 2-on-1 disadvantage and then make it seem like a big deal when the babyfaces beat him. No. Shut up. Get out of here. If you want to have anything, if you want Ziggler to be anything, you wouldn't have been booking him the way you've been booking him for the last month anyway. But you really would have given him the win here to solidify the fact that he is going to be a heel force for the Blue Brand. This made all three of the people involved in this match look like a complete joke coming out of it. No one's better off for what happened, and no one's going to be better off for what happened.
If anything, I totally agree, the handicap match. At least for me, the SmackDown Women's title, it was at least passable until that final minute or so, where they kind of botched the Oklahoma roll and then botched the split-legged moonsault. But before that, it was at least passable. This was stupid. You put the babyface against the odds and have them win. See American Alpha's title win tonight. You don't do that with... You don't put the heel at a disadvantage. And if anything, not only does nobody look good here, if anything, Apollo Crews looks worse. He looks like a bitter idiot. Yeah, he got the win, but then he never really stopped what was causing all of the issues to begin with, being Ziggler using the steel chairs. And what does he get for that? He gets his ankle Pillmanized twice. He looks like an idiot. And by the way, Ziggler, why a chair? TLC is 10 months away. You're not going to get a chairs match. Stop it.
Well, it's not like it matters. All three of them are going to, at least Ziggler and Kalisto are going to end up in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal match anyway, so what difference does it make?
I know. Alrighty, best match. This should be easy.
It's actually not.
You're stuck between two, and I know it's two.
Every part of me wants to give this to Orton and Harper, but I can't. The Elimination Chamber match for me. As good as Orton and Harper was, and it's out of relatively nowhere as good as that match was. See what I did there? Anywho. That match was way better than it had any business being. Although for those of us who know what he's capable of, seeing Harper step up the way he did tonight is not a surprise. But the moment of Bray winning the title, the way that they set up the road to WrestleMania for the Blue Brand, and in essence, inside of that chamber match between Cena pinning Miz, Ambrose and Corbin having their issues, and Wyatt walking out as champion to set up the match with Orton, I have to go with the Elimination Chamber match.
I'm actually going to disagree with you here, and well, disagree but agree. I'm disagreeing on it being the chamber match, but I'm agreeing on the special mention match that you just gave. Luke Harper and Randy Orton for me. They absolutely more than delivered, and this seemed like it was meant to be a showcase match for Harper, and he took the most advantage of it that you almost possibly could. And I thought that they had an incredible match that, pardon the pun, the one you just used, that came kind of out of nowhere. Because this seemed like kind of a filler thing. So you kind of would have expected a filler match. You wouldn't have expected the best match of the night to come from somebody who the fans are still relatively unfamiliar with, at least on his own, and his individual work in the ring as Luke Harper. Sure, when you put him with a veteran like Orton, you're bound to at least get something halfway decent. This was more than halfway decent. This was one of the best Randy Orton matches in a long, long time for me. And yes, it's absolutely great that they actually used the chamber to their advantage and advanced the storylines. It's almost sad that they got more, or almost as many storylines out of the 6-man chamber match as they did the 30-man Rumble match 2 weeks ago. It's kind of sad, but they were able to pull it off. But in the end, if there's one match I would go back and rewatch, Harper and Orton, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that overall that I felt like Harper and Orton's not rewatchable or anything. I think that you're going to get more long-term viewing wise out of that chamber match than you will out of Harper and Orton. Harper and Orton's going to be one of those wait-and-see moments. We think that this could be the start of something big for Harper, excuse me. We know there's going to be things coming out of this Elimination Chamber that'll take us into Orlando.
Fair enough. Alrighty, what is your trash for this show?
The overall crap refereeing. Like, for real. Look, I know I rag on them on occasion anyway, but let's be honest here. John Cho was a freaking moron. And it annoyed the absolute bejeebus out of me, frankly. I felt the overwhelming desire to punch John Cho after everything went down in that women's title match. I should not have such feelings of hate towards a referee.
Fair enough.
How about you, Patrick? What's your trash?
This one's going to sound a little weird, so I just ask that you let me explain. It felt a little too obvious. I got Mickey and Becky wrong. I figured Mickey being, her first feature singles match on the main roster, I figured she was going to win. Other than that, and, Nikki and Natalya you could kind of throw out. other than that, I think I nailed every other match. We're getting Bray and Orton, which should be very, very good, but I expected that. While he lost, I actually did think Harper would win, but I think he still ended up with the same amount of, I don't know if it would be respectability or I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
Credibility?
Yeah, that's it. I think he had as much credibility in his loss tonight as he would have if he won. I knew Alpha was going to win. I figured Naomi was going to win. So, to me, while sometimes obvious is good, in this case it wasn't bad. It just felt like it was a little too obvious going into this where we were going. At once, everyone kept saying, oh, Bray's going to win, Bray's going to win. I almost thought Cena was going to win. And then maybe on either the first SmackDown after Fastlane or the last SmackDown before Fastlane, just to shake things up, they were going to give Bray the title then, kind of thing. So maybe a little too obvious, but not obvious in a bad way. What's your cash for this?
I think it has to be that moment that Bray Wyatt wins his first singles title in the WWE. Let's also consider this factor for Bray as well. Bray is still a very young guy. He is the youngest in the chamber by 3 years. Bray's 29, Baron Corbin is 32.
Baron Corbin's 32?
This could be the beginning of wonderful things for Bray Wyatt. And I am holding out hope that they will find a way not to completely and totally up. Patrick?
Kind of took mine a little bit. So I'll take yours, but I'll expand on it. And I'll say, while maybe I don't agree on the timing, but both Naomi and Bray Wyatt, after working so very, very hard. Say what you will about Naomi. You can't deny that she's worked hard for this, right?
No, take nothing away from what she's gone through in her run in the WWE. I may not always have been the biggest fan of her ring work, but I take nothing away from the fact that she's definitely come leaps and bounds from when she was a Funkadactyl.
Won't lie, I missed the N in that.
Wait,
Don't
what?
repeat it. I missed the N on my phone when you said Funkadactyl.
That was the end.
No, never mind. I'll tell you after. So, but for me, for Naomi, I think it may be a little too early. Bray, I think we're years past due for him to get his first run.
I don't know about years, but I would definitely say months.
The way I see it, I thought Bray should have won back at WrestleMania 30 and beat Cena, and then should have at least gotten a run vying for the championship after that. 3 years ago. So that's where I, stand on that. But without a doubt, congratulations to both of them. Now the question is, how long will they have with the belts, and what will they do with the belts? All right. Before we get out of here.
Well, we'll be back here on April 2nd to talk about how they've both lost their titles, and it's all going to mean jack squat at the end in the whole run.
Are we going to be here on April 2nd?
I assume as much.
We'll find out on April 2nd.
Stay tuned.
One of us might be there, dingus.
We can still make it work.
I know, but we'll see. Anyway, before we get out of here and let the W2M guys take over, finally, what is your final grade for Elimination Chamber 2017?
So upon original view, I was actually a little bit higher than I'm going to give my final score here, but looking back on some of the filler that we ended up having to sit through here, Nikki and Natalya was a wash because it was a double countout, and as I said, until the last minute or so, you never really got the genuine feeling that they disliked each other. Mojo and Kurt Hawkins, despite being on the pre-show, still factored as part of this, and that was garbage. The handicap match was garbage. The best part of it was the pre-match attack by Ziggler, showing that not everybody in the WWE is a complete moron. Unfortunately, the booking committee for SmackDown then turned Dolph into a complete moron. That being said, the Elimination Chamber was one of the better ones in the last several years, and Orton and Harper is one of those matches that I think we're going to look back on at the end of the year and say, yep, Luke Harper's coming out party. 2017 was the year of Luke Harper. My overall final score for the Elimination Chamber is a 7. Patrick?
Son of a bitch.
Can't say that word.
I already did. Oops.
Can't fire me, I'm already fired.
Jeez. You don't like it? You're fired. You can't fire me. You haven't hired me yet. Anyway, exact same, 7. I think as bad as the bad was, and it's not even counting the pre-show, which was Mojo Rawley played football. That's all you need to know. Yeah, the opener definitely delivered. The second women's match, no, wasn't bad, but meh. The women's title match, meh, until especially then it was like until the end, and then it just went. Oh. The handicap match, but the two matches I wanted to delivered, and more than delivered. They more than held their own. That being Harper and Orton and the Chamber, the main event. Tag Team Turmoil, I had no problems with it. You know, to me, it just, the match was more meant as a way to clear the way for a new tag team. I don't know that we get Usos and Alpha at WrestleMania. I think we get Revival at WrestleMania and Alpha. But that's something that we shall see. But in this case, to me, the good more than offsets the bad of this show. So yeah, without a doubt, a 7 for me.
I hope we can say the same thing in 2 weeks. I get the very strong feeling that we probably won't be able to.
Come on. How can you not put your trust into Roman Reigns and Braun?
Actually, that is the only match on Fastlane that I'm looking forward to.
You're not looking forward to Neville and Gallagher?
I think it's a foregone conclusion that Neville's keeping the belt. But
of course, the king of the cruiserweights is keeping... All right, you know what? That's 2 weeks from now, anyway. 3 weeks.
Tonight's episode of Wrestling Unwrapped has been brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you are a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, posters, and magazines, you can find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement on Wrestling Unwrapped and received a free gift with your purchase. In addition, Wrestling Unwrapped Reacts is a presentation of the W2M Network, available online at www.w2mnet.com. Patrick, send us home. We're done here.
All right. And we are finally, after 3 weeks, back to a normal time slot for 2 shows at least. Next week, we go back and we finally go to Cleveland, as Harry and I will be reviewing the first ever Absolute Intense Wrestling's Girls Night Out show, featuring a one-night tournament to crown the first ever AIW Women's Champion. And then 2 weeks from tonight, we will be reviewing the second ever Wrestling Revolver show, Iowa Goes Lucha. And, well, we made the promise that things were going to go to 11 in the coming times. Things are definitely going to be picking up. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but at the very least, just know we're actually going to be conducting our very first interview. Might be in May, maybe even sooner. But at least for next week, AIW Girls Night Out, when we finally return to our normal time slot with our normal show, that will be next Sunday. So, until then, for Harry Broadhurst, Sean Garmer, our producer, I'm Patrick Ketsa. We will see you next week. You have been listening to Wrestling Unwrapped Reacts to Elimination Chamber 2017 here on the W2M Network.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Sean.